Good morning everybody, Graham from Unearthed. And you may be wondering what all these tiny little medieval artefacts are doing strewn across this board. Well, I will tell you. We, over time, find many of these little D-buckles from the medieval periods with the pins missing, as you can see. Some with the pins broken but the loop still attached. And if we're lucky enough, we get some with the pins still in. However, we also, curiously, find these little items, which are, I affectionately call them ring brooches, although people in other areas do call them ring buckles, but I like to use the old term, ring brooch. It'll always be a ring brooch to me. And you can see this one in particular is quite decorative. However, the pin's long gone. The pin would have sat just gently on here and gone across there. You can see the little gap. And it's a shame because a lot of people look at these and think, well, you know, what has it been? The key is always look at these little tiny, what you think are buckles or ring, or tiny little rings. They're certainly not horse harness rings. They are actually ring buckles. And you can tell, or ring brooches, I should say, just by this little groove. Look out for the groove, and that's where the pin would have been. And that gives you the clue of what it's been. Now, also, interestingly again, we do come across the pins with our detectors. Our detectors are that sensitive. If you look at that compared to my finger, it gives you some idea of how small these pins are. But the modern detectors pick them up no problem whatsoever. So these pins here, you can keep and you can restore your buckles and your ring brooches back to their former glory. So what I'm going to try to attempt to do is put one of these pins onto this ring brooch and bring it back to life. I've also done it with this one. It's not a perfect match, but it's getting there. And that one there has also been carefully restored, this one, because the pin was missing. So I've put a different pin on, but it looks pretty good. And of course, this giant pin to my right has come off a really big ring buckle stroke ring brooch. I mean, look at the size of this monster. So it gives you some idea of how big that ring brooch would have been. Fortunately, there was no sign of it. But I've kept it just in case I do find the body of a really big ring brooch. I can actually put that pin on. So let's have a look what it looks like after I've finished. So as you can see, I've loosely fitted this pin onto the ring brooch, but unfortunately it's just slightly too small. So I've not crimped it yet with my fingers. You can squeeze gently on the ends of them with not too much pressure and it'll mould them back into place. However, this is just failing to touch the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to scrap that idea and we're going to go with this pin, this medieval pin. So this time it's a much better result. The pin isn't yet crimped onto the brooch fully, but it gives you some idea of how it looks. The good news is the pin goes right across to the opposite end and it fits nicely on and restores the little medieval ring brooch back to its former glory. And the pin that we tried earlier, what we'll do with that is we'll try it on this buckle here that's got a pin missing. So let's just have a look. I mean, you can use these pins on different buckles and ring brooches if you wish. It's worth just keeping them in place. So we'll have a little look now to see what it looks like with a pin on that one. Yeah, in a roundabout way it sort of fits. All it does need is me to crimp it on the other end, but as you can see it's not fully on the little medieval brooch buckle, but it looks better. So what I'll do is I'll just gently prise that onto the body of the buckle and just ever so slightly nip it in place. I use my fingers, but you've got to be careful that you don't break the pins. You can also give them a gentle heat if you wish, but it gives you some idea of how to restore these wonderful little artifacts that were partyfacts before you put the pins back on them. On a rainy day or in the summer time when the crops are in and you're not detecting, it's worth getting your little collection out, some of your artifacts, and try restoring them. And of course, as you can see, there's a whole host of different ones there, including this giant pin at the opposite end, which has obviously come off a big ring brooch. I'll keep that and put it on another one. And we've restored some of these, of course, with different pins. That's got a different pin on it. That's not its original pin. This one here isn't the original pin. That one there's got a broken pin. So that one and that one will need pins putting on them at some point in the future. However, I've got to get out there and find some new pins, of course. And I won't be doing that until the arable fields are ploughed. July, August time, I should imagine, I'll start pulling the pins up. But it's always worth keeping these little pins just to restore your brooches and buckles. Bring them back to life. I hope that helps. These will now get a coat of wax and be preserved for many years, which is the right thing to do, and popped into my collection, folks. So there you go. I hope that's been of use. Give us a subscribe and a like if you can. That would be very helpful. And thanks very much for watching the channel, as always. On to the next.